Welcome back to this episode of Bearcat Chats. Great to be joined by three of the newest Binghamton University graduates, Emma Ross, Franklin Richards, Alex Reksten. Congratulations to all of you. Emma, let's start with you. Tell us what degrees you graduated with and if you and your family and friends did anything to celebrate the special occasion.
Thank you so much. I recently graduated with degrees in political science and psychology and a minor in forensic health. It was definitely a little bittersweet graduating from home instead of at Binghamton, surrounded by my family and friends. But we just did a really small celebration in my backyard this weekend. And my grandparents and my uncle drove up and they stayed in their cars on my driveway, and we just handed them a piece of cake through the window and celebrated a little bit that way. And it was nice to have at least a little bit of family around to celebrate.
That's awesome. What about you, Franklin?
My friends kind of surprised me with a red velvet class of 2020 cake. Red velvet being my favorite. So I'm really impressed by that. I was touched that they cared that much for me. So that's all I've done so far. I've been getting a lot of congratulations via social media. So that's been really touching. Even though they can't be there with me, they still reach out.
And what was your degree in, Franklin?
I got my degree, Master's in Public Administration.
Congratulations. And last but not
Thank
least, you, Alex.
So I graduated with my bachelor's in business administration with a concentration in management information systems and a minor in Russian studies. I didn't do a whole lot to celebrate yet, although we're working on some plans in the future with my extended family across the country. But I did have the opportunity to take some pictures in the Peace Quad, and I was still in Binghamton at the time. So my friends that I live with, we cooked a meal together, and my family called in for the champagne send-off on last Thursday.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool thing that the university and a lot of hardworking folks put together. Take me back. Let's go back a little in time, and we'll go reverse order, starting with you, Alex. And when you found out you're going home for the semester, or at least that classes were going virtual, how did you adjust?
I think it was definitely a situation in which I had to force myself to count my blessings and take inventory of all the things that I still could do, which was pay attention in my classes and get the most out of the work that our professors put in to make our classes possible and valuable online, and then look for other opportunities to do the kind of things that got canceled in a different format. But it was definitely adjustment.
How about you, Franklin?
Yeah, definitely. As Alex said, it was an adjustment. At first, when I read the email, I was just like, oh, it's going to be about 2 weeks. We'll be home for 2 weeks. We'll be back after spring break. And then I read it again for a second time. I saw it for the rest of the semester. And that's when it hit me that I probably won't be back as a Binghamton student on campus for a while. And then like Alex said, I just had to figure out what to do. I knew I couldn't go directly home immediately because my mom is a nurse and she was working with COVID in New York City. So I had to stay in Binghamton with my friends and try to adjust in that way.
And we thank your mom for all that she's doing on the front lines.
Thank you.
And you, Emma.
I think it was like a weird little grieving process that we as students had to sort of go through, especially as seniors, for like our own like sort of little loss that we had just for the rest of our college experience. And I think it was definitely a tough adjustment, and being, you know, president of the student government, like I sort of, and like Franklin was involved in a lot of this, like we sort of threw ourselves into our work a little bit, trying to keep everything afloat in terms of making sure like all the student activity things were like staying on track. And that's sort of how I kept myself going. As Alex mentioned, I just sort of threw myself into the things I still had left to keep myself busy and keep myself going in that way. And my boyfriend's a nurse, so I was just sort of constantly making sure that, you know, he had what he needed, and keeping those connections going was really how I kept myself going through all of it.
That's a lot to handle on both the academic, student leadership, and personal front. Emma, as a student leader, as you mentioned, what was sort of the message you were hearing from fellow students? How were you remaining connected to them?
Yeah, well, I think there was just a lot of like concern and confusion. And I think it was the hardest thing that like I felt was just like a sense of like a lack of control, because so many students were just losing the things that they worked so hard for, their senior recitals, their senior projects, their last big events that they had been planning for their whole senior year, like their big things, their big moments, their chances to shine. And all we were getting were like emails and calls and like, can we still do this? Like, can I have this last chance to do my thing? And it was the hardest thing in the world, like, especially as someone who like normally has some kind of control over that, to have to be like, no, and like to not have any chance to say yes and to not have any control over that. And it was devastating, because I also was losing that in a way, but I felt like I was also taking that away, even though it wasn't really like my place or my opportunity to. And it was just really hard to sort of firsthand see all the things that other people were losing in this aspect, because I was constantly talking to people who were coming in and talking to me about it. And it was just like, I feel like I very firsthand like experienced a lot of other people's like small losses, like as they went through it themselves. And it was a very difficult thing to see, just how much you just sort of see how much people put in to all their aspects of student life, just outside of academics as well.
Franklin, you were nodding your head.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with what Emma just said. I know a lot of students had a bucket list, so like one last time to the nature preserve, one last time eating at Tully's or something along those lines, one last time downtown, whatever it may be. And just to see that they couldn't check those things off their bucket list, they had to pack up and move out mid-March. Who would have thought our semester would have ended in Binghamton in mid-March? It was shocking, and it's something that I saw a lot of people had to strive to overcome, and they did it. I think collectively we united in a way that we didn't think we would ever have to, and we definitely overcame a difficulty and graduated. And I congratulate the class of 2020, because this is unprecedented, and I know we can definitely do great things because we got through this part.
And Alex, I imagine, to feed off of Franklin's point, it was also like it was so sudden, and it wasn't like we're moving this up to March, so get all your bucket list items done in March. It was quickly final without a lot of warning. How did you handle that?
It was definitely tough to handle, especially as a student graduating after only 3 years of undergrad. I had already committed to giving up a year and then giving up an additional almost semester. It called to question whether or not I had made the most of the time that I did have at Binghamton. So I spent a lot of time looking back and saying, should I have done more of this? Or like Franklin said, should I have eaten more food in the marketplace as opposed to in the dining hall? Silly things that you don't think matter, but those are the memories that you have when you graduate. And when almost 2.5 months of those memories that you anticipated having are taken away from you, you, one, grieve for the memories that you could have made, but also additionally cherish the ones that you do have. So once I was done grieving, I did spend a good amount of time reflecting fondly on the memories that I did have.
And for each of you, starting with Emma, what are some of the memories you look back on as a student?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to start. I'm very fortunate that some of my best friends today are the same as my best friends freshman year. Like my very best friend, I actually roomed with at orientation. And I'm lucky that she's still my best friend today. But like I I like to look at the photos of us when we were like baby-faced freshmen, and those are the same people in my photos with me now. I'd like to say we lost the freshman 15. We look a little bit better than we used to in those pictures. But I mean, I have intramural photos, and I have photos at sorority formals and student government events and all these great memories. And, you know, I got to go on Birthright with some of my best friends and travel halfway across the world. And there's just so much that I'm grateful for, that if you let me talk about it, this video would last way too long. But I can't be more thankful that I ended up at Binghamton in these 4 years with these people. Like it was truly the best decision I ever could have made.
How about you, Franklin? Especially, you have a different perspective with your master's.
Yeah, the master's degree was a great degree to get. but it's also been 6 years in Binghamton. So I did my undergrad and my master's in Binghamton. So like that was a double goodbye Binghamton, you know?
Mm.
So the memories I'm gonna have from this is exponential. And one thing that I don't think a lot of students might agree with me, I'm gonna miss finals. Why? Because I'm gonna miss the times that you're with your friends in the library, sitting there looking across at each other like, why did I not study this a week earlier? Why did I study this 2 weeks earlier? And just knowing that we're gonna power through this, we're gonna sit down and do what we gotta do. And then taking those after final trip to Denny's. Is walk across campus. And it was a great time to just go get Denny's, staple of Binghamton, in my opinion. I'm definitely gonna miss that.
Denny's, that's the biggest takeaway. We won't repeat that to President Stanger. Alex, and for you in 3 years, maybe it was expedited, but I'm sure there's some fond memories as well.
Yeah, I think Franklin's onto something there. It's the little things for me that stand out the most, especially with friends, seeing their triumphs, watching them grow as people. I, similarly to Emma, have had a relatively similar friend group since my freshman year, aided mostly by being in the PwC Scholars Program. And those students became role models almost in their own professional development and inspirations for me to be the best person that I could be at Binghamton and then after graduation. So watching them do the amazing things that they've come to do over the last 3 years and that I'm sure they'll do in their fourth constitutes a large majority of my fond memories.
Emma, you mentioned meeting your best friend at orientation coming up in the not so distant future for a lot of incoming students. What would be your message to those students who are just starting their Bearcats careers?
Oh my God, don't blink, like make the most of every moment. And honestly, like you take photos and take videos because of even like the silly little things. I have like all these Snapchat memories that are coming up these days and I send them in our group chat and we laugh at like the little things that come up. And it's so wonderful to have just little moments that you don't think like are gonna mean so much documented, of just like late night pizza nights, like 3 a.m. watching like Always Sunny in Philadelphia in your PJs on a random Tuesday in the dorms. Like I miss living on campus so much. Like you don't think it means so much. You're so excited to live in your own apartment. I miss living on campus. Like those were 2 of the best years of my life. And just make the most of every moment, no matter what you do. Like there is no more opportunities that you will ever be presented in your life included in one sum of money that you are paying than you will have in college. The amount of clubs and sports and opportunities that you have at your fingertips, like try anything and everything you can because it will be so worth it.
How about you, Franklin?
One advice I would give is just talk to people. I think we learn so much from other people. We learn so much from their experience and our experiences that, like, while we were in school, this is as Emma said, this is a place where we have so much going on, so many different people from different parts of the world, different parts of the country, that just talk to people, get to know them, get to know their stories, and see how it affects your story. Because I had a very different experience. I didn't have the very traditional orientation. I came in through the EOP program, the Michael V. Educational Opportunity Program. And we spent a very long summer together. And then we had those opportunities to talk to each other, hear what we've been through. And then freshman year, I had those stories and just built on it as I continued all the way through my master's, just talking and learning other people's story. I just think once you get to learn about other people, you learn about yourself.
And Alex, how about you?
My piece of advice would be that it's okay to stray from your plan a little bit, so long as you're testing things out and growing while you're doing it. Most of my favorite classes and activities that I've been involved in at Binghamton were either completely by accident or a complete leap of faith, where I wasn't sure what I was going to make of it. I wasn't sure who I was going to meet there, and it turned out to be an amazing experience. Things like joining the rowing team for 2 semesters or taking on a Russian minor and learning a new language. and a whole bunch of other classes that I would have never anticipated taking as my high school self, but my college self really, really benefited from doing.
It's amazing the growth you guys can experience in the course of 3 or 4 years, or 6 years in Franklin's case. It all happened so quickly. Lastly, tell us, and it's okay if you don't have a definitive answer for this, but what do you see for yourselves coming up next?
I'm attending George Washington University School of Law next year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
In the future, I do hope to go to law school, but at the moment, I'm trying to join the COVID battle by trying to get a job in tracing and contacting people to see who may have had COVID in the past and know, and try to get the data up to where we need it to be sure we are actually tackling the problem.
And I'll be starting full-time with PricewaterhouseCoopers in their deals advisory practice within management consulting. But that's not until January now, since everything has gotten pushed back. So in the meantime, I'll just be studying and trying to build upon what I had at Binghamton.
You guys got to stop underachieving. This is really unacceptable. Not what we were looking for. Thank you to all three of you. Congratulations again. And certainly your class and all of you individually have made a great impact on the Binghamton community, and it will be remembered.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.